Hello, I'm Tanner. I do natural bodybuilding, and I'm trying to get a lot more into philosophy. So that's what this is. Yesterday, I made a video discussing is there a limit to kindness, and I realized that yesterday I had a very large oversight in that video. Um, I presented kindness and fighting as complete and total opposites that couldn't coexist, which I believe the term for that is a false dichotomy, something like that, where it's a logical fallacy where essentially you're like, it's either this or this. When in reality, there's a million other options. It's not black and white. There's gray areas, like all of that. Which after after the video, I realized I was like, I'm presenting these two things like they're opposites and they can't coexist. Whenever that's not true. But instead of correcting it in that video or adding to the video, I decided I can make a separate video out of the fact that they can coexist, which led to today's video. The idea that fighting and kindness can coexist. It is possible to fight with kindness. I'm not talking about shooting love beams at each other or anything like that. Not a kill them with kindness kind of thing. Um, Allow me to find the page. Okay, I opened it up to it instantly. I'm awesome. Um, First point, like I said, fighting and kindness can coexist. The two biggest examples I have of this, which these are about to be nerd references, so if you're not a nerd, I apologize. These might be lost on you, but I will explain. um, are Deku from My Hero Academia and Aang from Avatar: The Last Airbender. To explain their situations a little bit, um, both of them were fighting. Again, these are fictional situations. They're a little out there. Both of them are fighting their big bad at the end of the series, the bad guy. But both of them, let me just go one at a time. Deku is fighting um, like I said, the big bad, who has essentially been manipulated his whole life into becoming a vessel for this like evil individual. And leading up to this fight, people are talking to him about, are you prepared to end him? Are you prepared to do what it takes to end this and make sure nothing ever comes of this evil person again? And Deku's like, I don't want to end him. His whole thing was he's always wanted to make people smile. That is why he's always wanted to be a superhero in this show. He is like, I want to save as many people as possible. I want everyone to smile. And whenever he last had an interaction with this big bad, whose name is Shigaraki, he's like, when I look at him, all I see is a crying child, because that is who Shigaraki really is, regardless of how much he covers it up. He is a crying child who was manipulated from the youngest age possible to in order to become this vessel for uh, again an evil entity. And Deku's like, I'm not going to fight to kill him. I'm not going to fight to end him. I'm not going to fight to for any of that. I'm going to fight to save him, to save that crying child I saw inside of him. I saw when I looked at his face. I'm going to save that person. Which in the end, Deku did end up having to end him, but it wasn't a matter of ending him. It was a matter of saving what little was left of Shigaraki, of saving what little was left of that crying child. And then another one I mentioned, Aang from Avatar: The Last Airbender, similar situation, fighting the big bad, and Aang is a monk in the show, and he's like, whenever he's being talked to about, he's like, people are telling him, hey, you've got to end the big bad. Um, he's like, no, I'm a monk. We value all life. We see all life as sacred. I'm not going to kill him. But he's like, I don't know another way, you know? And at the end of the show, he locks in, let's say. He locks in and he beats him, and he takes away his powers in the show. Um, if you know the power system, you know the power system. If you don't, you don't. I don't feel like there's a point in explaining it. But he in his mind, the kindest thing he can do is to spare his life, but take away his powers, so that way he can't continue to harm people, but he does continue to live. To me, both of those are examples of what it is like to fight with kindness, to fight for the sake of others while also not fighting with malicious intent. Neither of them were fighting to hurt anyone. They were fighting to save the people they were fighting against. And these are both examples of fighting with kindness, of fighting and kindness coexisting. And I could name a million more fictional examples of this. But I guess the question is kind of, what does that look like in a more realistic, real world application? And to me, this is where you can kind of go back to yesterday's video and go back to the question of, is the fight worth fighting? Is it something worth, fighting for? I just repeated myself essentially. But I wrote, if so, then do it with kindness. If this is a fight worth fighting, do it with kindness, for the sake of others and without malicious intent. If, to go back to my personal example yesterday of fighting for my friend who lost their job, my mentor, whatever we would like to call him, if I was fighting for him in a world where I did something about it because there was something I could do about it, it should be a fight for his sake, not to make myself feel better, not for me to have a happy solution to the situation, but for him. And I should do it without malicious intent towards anyone else. I should do it without being upset at his boss, who was like, "Hey, this ain't going to work out. We need you to step down." It should be with kindness and with zero malicious intent. And then, if the fight is not worth fighting, right? If you're like, this is a situation where fighting isn't necessary, fighting isn't worth it, then it's as simple as choosing kindness. If not, then do whatever you can to be kind. To go back to my example, I don't really think there's anything I can do about the situation, right? It's life. Things like that happen. Whatever. That's not the issue. It's the issue of, how do I handle it? And now the way I handle it is to continue to be his friend, to continue to look at him as a mentor, continue to stand by his side and be like, it's all going to be okay. We're going to be fine, And we will be, because that's life. Things happen. You move on. Life goes on. We'll be fine. And then I kind of wanted to address the fact that I did present y'all with a false dichotomy yesterday. Again, I think that's the word. I might be pronouncing it wrong. I don't know. It is often possible for two things to be true at once. And for this specific example, it is possible to fight with kindness. So just be careful of doing what I did yesterday and looking at things as very black and white, whenever there is often a gray area, an area in between where the things can coexist. But I mean, I'm not like upset at myself. Don't worry about that. I'm just saying, it's a part of it. You learn, you grow, we become better, we become smarter. I feel like that's a large part of what philosophy is about, is learning, growing, adapting. Other words for that. Sorry. And my last point, to kind of just sum up the entirety of that, if you fight, do it for the right reason. Again, back to the idea of doing it for the sake of others and without malicious intent to the person you're fighting against. Sorry. I don't know. I wanted to correct myself from yesterday, and I figured I could make an additional video on the topic of what I was correcting myself about. So that's what this is. I said this the other day, and I did it after some rambling, so I assumed I had lost anyone that was watching to that point. If you have studied up on any specific philosophers, read any specific books, if there's any modern content creators you like who are very good about explaining philosophies, I would love your suggestions. Help me kind of get into it. Help me know who I should read and study on. Because, like I said, I'm very interested in it. So I'm trying. It's just not. It's just kind of the where do I start kind of thing, you know. But yeah, thank you for watching. I'm glad I could correct myself from yesterday. And just remember, if you fight, do it with the right reasons. And things can often be in the gray area. 99% of things are not black and white. So yeah, thank you. If I get a gym vlog today, it'll be, I said this yesterday, but it'll be shoulders and abs. So we will see whether or not I can get a gym vlog. But thank you. Bye bye.